Welcome back to Whistler in British Columbia, the venue for the 2010 Winter Olympic Games. We're on the far west coast of Canada, just outside of Vancouver, a couple of 100 feet above sea level, in a winter wonderland. It started snowing late last night, and by the time we woke up this morning, some 12-15 inches of snow had fallen, just in time for the season to open here for the skiers and the snowboarders this weekend. Well, hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven, alongside me Olympic champion John Montgomery, ready for the second heat of the third Women's Skeleton World Cup of the season. And John, when we get to the top of the pile here, we've got a very close race.
Indeed, precious hundredths of a second separate first from really fifth place, and in that grouping, it could be anybody's race, because on this tricky track, you're seeing right now Sarah Reed go down the track, and Sarah had a fantastic first run. Cassie Haresh, rookie on the World Cup Tour this year, had a fantastic first run. Good lines, doing very little to execute them. That's the kind of energy that you want to elicit to get the right lines, is as little as possible. And now you're seeing her descend the track here, stitching it together nice and early to 16. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad, of course. And then you've got your race leader here, only in the front by very, very small margin. A very slow starter, but a fantastic driver with great equipment, good gear, and she's going to be the one that the other girls are chasing to try to overthrow for the claim and title of World Cup champ here at the third stop in Whistler this week.
Well, Canadian athletes 1, 2, 3 until Marion Thies had her run, and she is just 0.04 of a second ahead of Cassie Haresh. Of course, a position that she's been in many times before. For Cassie, this is her first time with a chance of a World Cup podium. And Noelle Piker's pace, returning to World Cup action for the first time since the Whistler Games. She's in 5th position, just ahead of Anya Huber. So lots of class at the top of the field there. And Johnson, very close little groups just outside the top 10. Half a dozen athletes covered by 1/10 of a second or so. So expect to see lots of yo-yoing up and down the order.
Oh, there'll be some flip-flopping, some leapfrogging, some back and forth, and you're going to see some action here on the second run. And we've got 5 different sleds in the top 5 athletes. You've got a German sled, a Bromley sled, a Schneider sled, a Davenport sled, and I think a sled that Noelle Piker's Pace's his husband built for her in the top 5. So we've seen a drastic evolution in the type of equipment that athletes are using. It's like other sports, like canoe kayak, for instance. They're not using the birch bark canoe of days of yore. They're using composite materials to build new competitive equipment that's aerodynamically optimized, as they are in the sport of bobsled, luge, and skeleton racing, for example, here today. And athletes are trying to find that edge. When you're dealing with hundredths of a second, any advantage that you can gain over creative thinking, working within the tight parameters that the FIVT has regulated, the sleds have to be built within, are what athletes are doing, trying to find that, trying to scratch together a good sled, one that fits their style and suits their driving styles and abilities, is what these athletes are doing. And you've seen this crazy development in the last little while, and you've got 5 different sleds in the top 5, so it shows that there's no magic answer. It's what you can make work and what you can use to your driving style to try to navigate these tricky tracks in the world.
It is so personal because the athlete is so much a part of the equipment, of the overall weight. It's just like trying to find a pair of shoes that fits comfy. Here we go then, into our 20 sliders, starting with Barbara Hosch of Switzerland. Ryan Davenport here this weekend, drove over from Alberta with a whole bunch of new sleds and runners, and she's using one of his.
Historically, the best sled ever probably built. Ryan Davenport's equipment has still won more medals internationally than any other sled builder out there. It's becoming perhaps a bit antiquated, and people trying to find new sources for equipment, but Barbara is using one of the Davenport sleds here and runners, and looks like she's putting it together very nicely for a good second descent here. Early into 5, a little bit late to 6. You're going to see her rise, fall, and then get picked up again. As expected, a bit of a flop off of 6 and early to 7. Great entrance into corner 9 there. You want to see the athletes entering corner 9 on the right-hand side. If there's anything left of very right, if that makes any sense, is not the ideal position. Dropping a toe through 12 to keep that sled low, the more dangerous part of the track. You just smash off that entrance to 13. Not only hurts, but it destroys your momentum and speed to the bottom portion of the track here.
A little slower than her first run on speed, but she had a quicker getaway, 57.39, but that's 0.2 of a second slower than her first heat. Now, what about the temperature change? I mean, it snowed quite heavily overnight. We've got a little bit of cloud cover now over the blue sky. Humidity and temperature in the air and on the ice all have a big part to play in on what the running surface is like.
They do. It's like a cocktail that these guys are making on a daily basis. You've got all these different ingredients, and humidity is definitely one of the biggest portions and ingredients into making a fast track, and you don't want it. You do not want humidity because it brings the frost out. If you crank the plant and you've got humidity in the air, frost just builds up like nobody's business. Jack Frost is putting down a carpet on which these athletes are sliding, and that's not fast. To say that she was doing 132 at the finish is crazy to think that that is slow here, but it is.
Yeah. 82 miles an hour and change. Well, Barbara Hosch leads. This is Lelda Prijelana of Latvia. First year on the World Cup, so this is her rookie season, just 19 years old. You're quite used to, at my venerable age, to seeing athletes being young, but she really is very young compared to her rivals.
No question. Oh, no, she pops the groove. First time we've seen that this year. Unfortunately, she's going to be dead last. There is no way that you can recover from a mistake like that in the sport of skeleton racing. You have to stay in the groove at the start, and she just pooped it right there, unfortunately, popping the groove. And that's what we were talking about earlier with her, you know, I think she might have been on the wrong side of the sled. Not the wrong side, but the different side. And when you have all that weight over the side, it can sometimes lead to disastrous results, as we just saw there at the top of the track for the lap.
So, you know, next time you're out sliding down a hillside on your toboggan, send it off and then sprint after it, try and throw yourself on it. Nice and square without sending the thing into a skid, and then you'll appreciate exactly how tough it is. It's on sheet ice.
It's not an easy task to accomplish. It's funny, I watch my nephews go tobogganing, and they think that that's just how you're supposed to start. They're like, say go, and cheer for me, and push the sled. You can see she's got a poor time of 59.27, by far the slowest of the day. And unless we see a disastrous result from somebody else, she will stay, unfortunately, the low woman on the totem pole in the Whistler World Cup.
Well, the good news is you can't drop out of the top 20 because the other two sliders who failed to make it through don't get a second run. So, yeah, she drops her spot from 19th to 20th place.
Right here, she pops out of the groove just as she's loading. You can see that now she's crossing those grooves where you want to be going straight. She is making a beeline in the other direction for the wall. Ding, dong, and there she goes. The run is done.
And you can see the tubular runners, just no grip at all, no chance at all of being able to steer that back. You just know the only thing that's going to straighten you up is the wall.
That's it. And Barbara is going to be in the leader's box for at least one more slider.
She is. Next up is Great Britain's Donna Crichton, 4.95 start, second quickest in the field. But
you know, Donna's going to be PO'd about that. She's going to come out here and lay it down, I suspect, on her second start. Let's see if she can improve on her first run start time.
Shelley Redmond at the top, as well as lots of the other British sliders who will be competing tomorrow and next week. Just a rub on the wall.
4.98. Doesn't look as though the start is picking up in speed. She looked like she put a lot of influence into that one. A lot of energy. Not quite
second ahead of Barbara Hosch of Switzerland. Let's see if she can extend that advantage.
20 sliders reverse.
Nice exit to 6, smooth into 7. See if she can stay off this right-hand wall. No, she brushes that right-hand wall down the tricky straightaway and late into 9. Her speed will start to slow down, but I suspect she's got enough energy, enough momentum to maintain her heading. And at a second and a half, and handing over Barbara, if she keeps the shiny bits down, she will be in the race leader.
She's still a kilometre an hour comfortably off the speeds that she was doing in the first heat. 56.46. She came down 56.57 in the first run, but speed was definitely not there. However, it did look a lot tidier than her first run.
I think so. She's still shaking her head. I know she's not happy with how she executed that run, not given her body language. Very rarely do you come across the finish line shaking your head, being pleased with yourself.
That's true enough. Again, so much of this is experience. For North American sliders, you get that when you go to America, to Europe, don't you? You know, your tracks that you haven't trained on quite so regularly. And for the Brits, well, coming to North America, she'll probably know the European tracks an awful lot better. But
there she is, loading on the sled. Donna has a really powerful load onto her sled. You'll see some of the other athletes just sort of hover a little bit over her sled, but she takes her last step and fires herself onto the sled, trying to generate as much momentum and propulsion as she can from that final step and trying to utilize it all to generate speed at that start ramp.
Donna Crichton of Great Britain, our race leader. Next up, Michelle Steele of Australia. 5-second flat start, another quick getaway from her, 5th in the field.
Tremendous start for a two-handed pusher. You can see how she keeps her hips straight down the track. A lot of athletes used to get turned sideways, not being able to generate that same momentum, and a 4.99, even faster than her first one with the two-handed start. That's tremendous. A little bit high there. Unfortunately, she came down too soon, brushing that right wall with her bumper. Putting it back together here. See if she's going to be out of 5. Ooh, bit late out of 4, early to 5. Getting a bit sloppy through that portion. See how her splits are compared to Donna here. Still a quarter-second advantage. Into the bit of the hole at the entry of 9. Not the greatest entry, but not too bad. Dropping the toe at the entrance of 11. Getting a nice cross into 12, and she's starting to stretch her lead now. Very slight athlete, but good aerodynamic form. 132.8 for speeds. Probably not the fastest that we'll see here in the final descent for the athletes, but good enough to maintain 4/10 of an advantage and dropping in and maintaining her first place finish.
2 tenths quicker on that run alone than Donna Crichton, so similar to the first heat, a couple of tenths up.
Big time, and you can watch when she shakes Donna's hand here. If we can get a shot of that, you'll see the size difference, how small and how slight Michelle Steele actually is. She is tiny by comparison to some of the other athletes.
She's from Innes Park in Queensland.
See her teammate who will be competing here next week on the Intercontinental Cup Tour in Melissa Hoare there, also from Australia. The Australians have done a phenomenal job identifying the sport of skeleton racing. Is a sport where you can see her coming out there just a wee bit high off of corner 4 and early into 5 there. The AIS identified the sport of skeleton racing as one that they could make a rather small investment in to be able to maximize their return. And they have done a phenomenal job of getting their women up to the elite level and having a measure of success, as you can see with Michelle Steele and with Lucy Schaffer.
Well, probably a slightly different level of investment in the Russian program, with Sochi not over the horizon anymore, but coming full steam towards us like the light in the tunnel. What about Olga Potolitsina? 5:10 getaway. She's a girl who, on her day, is capable of winning races, but so far she's only had one of those days.
Olga's days for winning races will be more on some of the glider tracks, the less technically demanding tracks. And you'll see the Russian program spending big cheeses. We've seen they've acquired Coach Willie Schneider. They carry a translator so that they can converse in both German and Russian to be able to make sure the athletes understand Willie. That's their ability. Oh, too early, out of quarter 7 there. Hits the belly of 8, and subsequently she's going to bleed some speed here.
1200 behind the 4 splits. Yeah,
really coming off high of corner 11 there. Almost flopping out and brushing the wall before 12. Trying to let it go, but getting on the other side of that fine line like we talked about earlier, of being in control and out of control. And Olga, unfortunately, is out of control.
She's going to drop down to 3rd spot, so an 18th place finish. Billy has seen better slides from her, best of which came from the season opener last year at the Austrian track Eagles, the classic of all gliders tracks, where she claimed her first gold medal.
Dipping really low here in 4, getting completely out of sight at the bottom of the well. And when you get picked up back at the end of the corner, if it's done, you flop out. And you've got nowhere to go but hard right, brushing the wall before 5. Excuse me, that was the exit of 7. Hitting the belly of 8 there, and then skidding sideways, snap hook into corner 9. And those sorts of moves are devastating to any momentum, any energy, and your speeds.
See the way the body is just contorted by the speed and the G-forces working on it.
Nobody who's confident sliding well is going to have their feet that far apart. She's trying to save herself, and those are panic steers. Those are, oh my God, I got to get my feet apart here, drop the ankles, and do everything to try and just get down in one piece.
Catherine Eustace of New Zealand is on the back of a group that stretches up to the 9th place. Katie Eulander, just 2/10 covering 8 athletes.
5:08, similar getaway to her very first start. Nice entrance into corner 2, going to be a little bit high. Ooh, brushing that right wall. You'll see the athletes who have the best down times have later entrances to corner 2 and stay off that right wall. You absolutely have to. It's imperative to not touch these walls. Bit high at the end of a 6 here. Brush before 7. Gets pushed low, high, low. And does a good job of maintaining that. Decent exit of corner 7. Real high in 9. Let it go nicely there at the exit of corner 11. Drops that toe through 12 to stay off the exit of 13. That's painful. If you hit that left-hand wall and get you're going to at least have a souvenir to take home with you from Whistler. And it's not going to be a snow globe with the village. It's going to be a black and blue bruise on your left arm.
Well, she drops down into second spot behind Michelle Steele. Catherine Eustace first run 56.17. That was a 56.73. So a lot untidier than her first trip down. She'll be disappointed with that.
Look at her helmet there. You can see the scars, the wounds, the telltale signs that you've slid Thunderbird at breakneck speeds when your face is dragging on the ice going through there. Real high here, dropping the toe at the exit of, I believe that's corner 6, coming down a bit floppy, and you'll see her brush the entrance of corner 7 here. When you hit before a corner, it changes your sled's trajectory. Watch her now as she goes across the bottom of the entrance, and now the pressure. And she gets picked up, having to steer against that much harder. The athletes who navigate that properly stay off that left-hand wall, come smoother onto 7, and their trajectory through that corner is much flatter, much smoother, using much less energy to achieve it.
Telltale sign of a Dutch slider. Lots of orange on the suit of Joske LeConte. Now, just 400ths of a second quicker than Catherine Eustace in the first heat, and just 300ths of a second behind Svetlana Vasilieva, who's in front of her. 5:04 getaway, exactly the same as the first heat. So the start isn't holding them back, but it isn't offering them any favours either.
Nice exit of corner 2. Didn't go in early, but obviously did the right work within the corner to get the exit that she was supposed to. Slew through 4. Nice early to 5. She's going to have a good exit of 6 now. Bring it back to the corner. Ooh, brush before 7. Not ideal, but she can save it.
John, we're looking here at athletes that have got getting on for a decade less experience on the ice than somebody like Noelle or Melissa Hollingsworth. How much is that a deficit for the younger sliders?
Well, in a cerebral sport such as skeleton racing, experience is key, but it's not the only thing that determines how effective an athlete can be at competing. And some people have just a better spatial awareness from where they are in the corner, what the pressures are representing. And it's not the be-all and end-all. And exposure to a track doesn't necessarily determine whether or not you're going to be able to do it.
56.11 slide. Joske LeConte moves into the lead. And that's good consistency. First heat, 56.13. She'll probably think back and they'll both be completely different from each other. But the end result, very similar indeed. She has the lead.
Fantastic second run there. And she's got to be smiling about that. This is going to be one of her best finishes. And you're going to see the athletes behind her really pushing to try and keep up with her at this point. Good entrance into corner 16. Highest G-forces you're going to experience on the track. Look at the back of her neck. You can see it plain as day. Her chin is buried in the ice, and you can tell good exit of corner 15 dictates that she had the best speed going into that final corner, and that's what you need to carry it up this uphill portion. If you've got no speed going uphill, you're certainly not going to pick up on your competitors. Taking that brush off that right-hand wall there is probably not a bad thing. I know in the past when I've tried to steer the exit of 16 so that I didn't have that brush, I was seemingly slower than when I just let it go a little bit, took that finite brush, and let it rip.
Next up, Svetlana Vasilieva, one of 2 Russian athletes tied to the 100th in 12th place, just 300ths up on our current leader, Joske LeConte of the Netherlands.
You can see it's starting to snow a little bit at the top, and that might be lending itself to being a little bit slower for some of these athletes who are at the top of the pack coming down at the bottom. Rushing that right-hand wall. Bit of a skid there in corner 3. Not great for speed. Working hard, another skid. We saw this on her first run. There is definitely something going on here with her runners that is not allowing her to maintain traction. We saw her slopping, we saw her skidding, and she is doing it again here on the second decision.
Well, John, the colder the ice, the smaller the contact patch traditionally you get away with. Has she got too much bow? I mean, it looks like she's out of control in those first 2 or 3 quarters.
It could be one of two things, either the bow and the runner being too great or the spine being too wide. And if the spine doesn't engage with the ice, it doesn't allow her to maintain traction. And she has been skidding everywhere down this track. Watching her break out there at the end, coming out with no touch at all at the very exit of corner 16 lets you know that she skidded it somewhere in the corner, because if your runners are maintaining traction, it's just simple geometry. You will have height at the end of 16 there. If she's dropped behind the race leader at this point.
See, there is quite a little bit of snowfall coming, and this is now where we start to pose a bit of a problem for the jury, because although it is an outdoor sport, you do want the track to remain relatively similar for everybody else.
The majority of this track is covered. The snow will not make its way into the track, and it will be fairly consistent for everybody. So, coming in here into corner number 6, she has a middle entry. Look at her steering hard here and braking out there at the end. The back of the sled skids up, and that is, like I said before, a momentum killer. You have to maintain traction. You have to maintain parallel running while going through these corners. She doesn't seem too disappointed.
She's enjoying herself here now. It was a bit of a wild ride for Vasilieva. She was tied in 12th with this girl, Maria Orlova, her teammate. Orlova with a couple of years more World Cup experience. Let's see if she can break the tie in her favour and maybe overhaul Joske LeConte of the Netherlands.
Sliding on a different sled from her teammate. We'll see if that makes the difference for her. Orlova on a Schneider sled here. I believe her teammate was on a Ducour sled. Late entrance into corner 2. Navigating it pretty well, taking a bit of a flop off the end there. Already 800s up. Smoother lines like this where her teammate was skidding, she's definitely going to pull away from her and continue to maintain that number 1 position in front of her teammate. Very low for corner 7. Different line from a lot of the other athletes. Not an exceptional entry into corner 11. Seems to be letting it go, hanging on, doing as little as possible to maintain that handle. Still got a 10th of an advantage. Nice smooth entry to 13. Bit of a flop off the end. Here the helmet dragging at that point as the speeds pick up. The athletes' helmets are plastered into that ice going around that 4 or 5 feet entrance to 16, and she drops behind Joske. What a fantastic second run she had. She's still got the leader box position.
Well, these athletes were so close together, and Joske LeConte put in a really nice run, 56.11. We've seen her on the fringes of the top 10 in the first heat. She may well break in there in the second. And there's Maria Orlova. You don't often see her without a smile on her face.
No, good competitor. Happy to be there, and knowing that what she's doing is building towards Sochi. Most of these athletes, the entire field, has definitely got one thing on their mind at this time of the year, and that's about 15 months from now. February 18th and 19th, 2014, Sochi, Russia, is what everybody is building towards.
There's your race leader, Joske LeConte of the Netherlands, ahead of the 2 Russians, Maria Orlova and Svetlana Vasilieva. And at the top of the ice is a woman who knows what it feels like to win Olympic honours. Silver medalist in Torino. And Shelley Rudman, like everybody else, as you say, John Montgomery, will be just thinking one 5-letter word, Sochi. That's the big focus now.
And you can see Joske in the leader's box there, swallowing hard, knowing that her time in that leader's box position is in grave jeopardy at this point, with a seasoned veteran like Shelley Rudman here, up next, looking to climb the ranks, do some leapfrogging of her own, and get a little bit of face time in that leader's box here.
Well, 8th, 9th, 10th were covered by just 0.03 of a second. Shelley Rudman just outside that little group. Let's see what she can do. 5:10 getaway. It was 5:07 in the first heat, but she had a pretty loose first run. I'm sure she will tidy that up.
Much smoother line than some of our other athletes have seen through corner 2 here. Linking it very up nice, and going into corner 5 nice and early, bringing it back to the entrance of 6. See her using very little input to keep that sled with a flat, low trajectory through these corners. Unlike some of the other athletes who have to steer like mad, she's only got 2/100ths of a lead at this point. That may not be enough to overtake Joske, unless she can stitch it together at the bottom of the track here. Letting it go at the exit of 11. She's now starting to pull away. 122.3 for speed. This should be enough. Shelley gets down, becomes our new race.
tiny little bit of scratching, but you can just hear the sled whistling. Some sleds make a very different noise. Some tracks make a very different noise. Park City has a very different noise all of its own, but that was a great slide from Shelley Rudman, 55.99, a full 100th of a second quicker than her last run.
Just pulled it together there at the bottom of the track here. If we can get some footage here of her second run here at the bottom, we'll see where she was able to pull away from Yaska. And it's probably, not probably, it is at the bottom of the track here. Here's corner 16. She's got her legs together, arms tight, elbows in, and she's doing very little. You'll see that she hits out of that finish curve, but that's what I was talking about earlier. Letting it go a little bit here at the end. Not skidding here. See, she gets pulled up at the end and takes that bump off the exit of 16, as opposed to skidding her sled, as opposed to worrying about what's going to happen. She maintains form, energy, and trajectory, getting a good finish bottom time.
And she is our race leader. 10 to go still in Whistler. Stay with us right after this.
Commercial break.
He's calling me. Hey Dave, he's calling you.
Chopper on deck.
Just when they're coming up, you can do it. You see somebody under their roof.
Like the event's going off well.
Was John trying to get hold of camera 25? If he was.
Like they've been coming here this week. As soon as they come off,
Welcome back to Whistler, British Columbia. We are in the snow-clad mountains around the venue for the 2010 Winter Olympic Games. Fastest 10 of our women's skeleton athletes now coming with Lucy Chaffer in 10th place.
Bit of a rough load onto her sled there. You saw her feet dart the other way where she wasn't wanting to go. 5'11", might have been a little reflective of her load there. Smooth through two, a little bit high. She's going to have to work to stay off that right wall. She just clips it. Not what she wanted. 300ths of a deficit here. Now it's going to be tough work to get that back after that rougher exit of exit 2. But if she can do as little as possible to get off the end of 6 without rushing 7, she does it again. She was silver medalist here last year. Nice exit into corner 5. I think she's going to be hard pressed to get anywhere even threatening the top 6 this year.
She's going to need a miracle of epic proportions to get into the podium positions. 900s behind our current leader, Shelley Rudman of Great Britain. And not enough speed.
133, hit that right-hand wall. That is frightening. Coming off of corner 15 and hitting that right-hand wall, you know that you're going straight up in 16, and you saw her dangerously approach that roof. She knew that that wood was coming at her hard and heavy, and she had to steer to avoid contact with it.
Well, there's two things there, John Montgomery. First, you know you're going to hit the woodwork, and second, you know that you're not going to slide down the corner. You're basically just going to fall 10 feet into the track.
And she, like you said, 10 feet is not a stretch there. She is going to fall like a brick from that ceiling. And you can see she's high there. She probably hits before the entrance of 15, pushes her late, which gets her peak here, and she's got nowhere to go but right. She's going to hit this right-hand wall, and watch her ascend sharply to dangerously approaching the roof. She saves it. She knows that she's got to steer hard, and she is a sled and a half higher than any other athlete we've seen come in there. Disappointment written on her face. She knows that when she was walking that tightrope between being in control and out of control, she erred on the side of out of control this week.
Katie Ulender of the USA comes to Canada after 2 North American races in her home country, which see her as our World Cup leader. She won last weekend in Park City, Utah.
Come on now, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Wearing the stars and stripes on her body. Patriotic girl that she is.
5:04 getaway, exactly the same as the first heat.
Middle entrance into 2, a little bit high, navigates it very well, pushing the pressure around the corner and coming off the middle of the 3. Smooth through 4, nice into 5. Katie's driving some really great lines here. You're going to see her feet hanging out the back of the sled, a little bit different than some of the other athletes, but don't let it trick you up. She does not need to keep it together. At the back end of the sled, the air is already incredibly disturbed. It's really about your shoulders. It's really about your head. Keeping them both down is what's going to dictate your aerodynamic form. And you can see her feet everywhere, but that does very little to affect her aerodynamics. And she is putting together a fantastic run here. Nice and smooth. She's going to have a bump out of 16, which is what you want to see from competitive athletes, so they're not overworking the corner. And by 0.4 of a second, she is in the lead in front of Shelley Redmond, and it was evident in the lines that she took to navigate the track.
38 hundredths better than her first heat. That should, if she'd put that down in the first heat, she'd have been in the top 4, which is where we expect her to be. So she should be happy with that.
She's had a couple of races like that this year. The 3-run race in Lake Placid, you saw Katie have a bit of a stinker on her first one, and then 2 good ones. Today she had 1 throwaway on the first one, and this one that she can be proud of. She's coming off of that corner, doing enough work to get a smooth line into 7 here. You can see her head up a little bit. She'd like to correct that, but she does stay off the entrance at corner 7, and she's able to get a smoother line through there.
There is your race leader, your World Cup leader.
Wearing the yellow jersey, you can see clear as day there. She's the number 1, and she's trying to hang on to that. She will lose it today, but she did have a real solid second run there.
Well, now we get into our top 8. Kathleen Lorenz, she was only 0.05 of a second ahead of Katie Ulender after the first heat. I think she'll be doing really well to stay in front, given how much quicker Katie just went.
She'd love to see a 1. She will probably see a 2 here coming across the finish line on her second run, but she's going to have to be happy with that because Katie had a fantastic run. Ooh, so high at the entrance of corner 2 there. Had no choice but to hit that right-hand wall, and she will already be back to Katie here. Virtually no chance of getting the speed back until the bottom of the track, in which case she can get some of it back. Good entrance into corner 7 there. She can stay off this right-hand wall. Great entrance into corner 9. Now she can put some of this back together. I don't think she'll have enough to get these 2/10 back that she's presently got as far as the deficit is concerned. 121.3. She will not. She does not have the speed to continue to fall further back. Hopefully lose no more than 1 position.
Moment she could drop out of the top 10, and waving around head and shoulders right up there in corner 16. 7th fastest run, 56.32.
Shelley moves up another spot, and Kathleen drops 2.
That nearly put Oscar Leconte into her best ever World Cup finish. Joska is 11th at the moment, her best ever World Cup finish, 11th. Altenberg last year.
You can read the body language there. When somebody's head goes up and down rapidly like that, I think you can only surmise what word came out of her mouth. I don't care what language it's in, but it's not a good one.
That's why we don't mic them up.
You can see there, she's using her head and her toe to be able to steer towards the left-hand side there. The speed is not exceptional. Going into corner 1 there, she didn't have the push, and then goes straight to the roof at the entrance of 2 there. There's nothing you can do. You see she was down way too early at the exit of 2, brushing that right-hand wall, and no chance upon which to keep her heading and her spot.
Well, this is probably what you would have to refer to as Lizzie Yarnell's World Cup rookie season, because she didn't do a full season last year in World Cup. She did do 4 races. She won 2, so it's kind of hard to say it's a rookie year, but still, really, you know, she's getting to a lot of these tracks for the first time in World Cup action.
She's got anything but rookie results. 4.94, second fastest start of the day. Next to the 4.93 we saw by the Swiss slider in run 1 here. Nice line from corner 2. Exceptional line. Going into corner 3 smooth. And nice on take of 4. She's already got 4/10 in the day. And it looks like she's having a fantastic run here. Going into corner 6, not steering very hard. Going into the corner where she wants to be, and smooth on to 7.
This is the other Lizzie Arnold. There was a very tight and tense Lizzie Arnold in the first run. This is the organic, flowing Lizzie Arnold.
That's what the sport's all about, having some rhythm, having some flow, and if you can get dialed into that in your sliding preparations in the runs leading up to your final race runs, you've got that much better chance for success, and this is what she wanted on the first run. She is 1:35.2, fastest speeds on the second run we've seen today, and now she's going to be 55.47, fastest run, 4/10 in the bank, and you're going to see Anya Huber really having to lay down a solid second run in order to keep in front of Lizzie here. And good for her. Lizzie had a bit of a rough week, a real tough day 2 days ago where she hit her head, and I know that she wasn't feeling well yesterday. I'm so happy to see that she looks healthy and is sliding like the Lizzie Arnold that we know, which is smooth lines.
Thanks for the note, the maidens.
Here she is, coming nice and low through this corner here, staying on the left-hand side in the entrance to corner 16, and able to keep a smooth, flowy line through this corner here. No rapid peak there, and no rapid descent either. That's the kind of line that you want to see through the Thunderbird corner at the bottom of this track here in Whistler.
Head tucked down, but no chin on the ice at 84 miles an hour. Just insanely fast to be sliding head first.
And to think that we could do even faster than that with a beautiful sunshiny day is a little ridiculous, actually.
Well, next up is Anya Huber, and she's going to have to excel.
If you want to sponsor me, get in touch.
You can follow Lizzie and Anya and almost everybody in the sliding sports now on Twitter if you are a Twitter user, or find them on Facebook. An awful lot of insight into what goes on life on the road. Mainly it's hot tubs and cake.
Yeah, right. These athletes love to hear from their fans, so feel free to shout out to these athletes, send out your support, because they do feed off that, I can promise you. Anya pushing on the opposite side of the runner that she's got in the groove there. A bit of a dangerous start, but nonetheless, she's got a 4.93, second fastest start of the day. And phenomenal athlete. Good, rangy form. You can see some of the athletes, they need to be mobile. Running bent over is probably one of the most cockeyed things an athlete can ever do. As fast as you can, and if you've got that mobility like Anya does, she can have fantastic starts, and as well, looking like she's putting together a really good run here. A bit floppy off the end of 6. Didn't do enough work. It's a bit low at the end of that corner. Let's see. Oh, bad exit of 7. Not what she wants. Using so much energy at the entrance of 9 there. The spine's dig into the ice under all that pressure.
Let's take a look at the speed. 122.9 for Lizzie Arnold. 120.7 for Anya Huber. She's already in the red.
No chance of keeping the spot.
So unusual to see her even at the bottom of the top 6. Never mind dropping out.
She fell apart here at the bottom of the track, and you can see her just bury her head. She knows that she didn't do what she was expecting to, and you'll see it written all over her face here, shaking her head, as I anticipated, coming up to the finish line.
Well, you know, just asking, I wonder when, what was Joske Leconte's highest finish in World Cup racing. You also need to see how far down the order has Anya Huber been? Is it 8th in the last few years? I don't know, not for a long while.
Anya taking that souvenir that I talked about before, exit of 15. If you come and hit that right-hand wall there at the fastest portion of the track, it is definitely the hardest whack you're going to take here in Whistler. Oh, laid off of this corner. The corner's done. Her energy is coming back to the left. And if you are rising at the end, the corner's done. Your energy comes back to the left, as you saw her do here, and exit late into the pit at the entrance in 9.
Well, Lizzie offers her congratulations, and vice versa. Anya Huber drops down the order into 3rd place with 5 sleds to go. And what about a podium? First time back for Noelle Piker's Pace. The USA not out of the question.
No missing her at the start line. No mistaking her for any other athlete on tour with that distinct pink outfit. 5:04, amazing start for Noelle Piker's Pace. She couldn't have dreamed of these types of starts a couple of years ago. And you saw her with the best exit I've seen from corner 2 yet. Going a little bit late into corner 4 here. Nice and early to 5. She's starting to drop some toes. That wasn't the entrance she wanted in corner 6. She's having to work to stay off that entrance to 7. Bit of a snap hook there at the entry.
Her husband, who built the sled, and both her kids are down at the finish dock waiting for Mummy to finish work.
She's not picking up the spots like she'd hoped. And we'll see her speed here coming out of the exit of corner 11. 122.5. She's got the speed. She will pick away a little bit at that 2/10 deficit, but it won't be enough to pick her back up to the position she was in. 2/10 only, 135.5. Not bad. But with only a few feet left, she won't have the length that she needs to capture Lizzie Arnold.
Well, Lizzie Arnold and Noel Piker's Pace essentially swap runs. Noel had a better first heat, and then Lizzie had a better second heat. Moves into the lead, or stays in the lead, as Noel finishes her run in second place with 4 to go. So top 6 World Cup finish for her first World Cup race since 2010.
And she's pleased with that. I'm not sure what the qualifying standards that she's got to make to earn a spot or a trip to Sochi are, but that's got to be within the what she had expected for her World Cup return there. Good run or bad run, she's got to be happy to see the kids at the bottom of the track, and she gets to travel the whole world with the family this year. She was able to find some sponsorship to be able to do that, and from what I understand, it was either all 4 of us go or none of us go. And thankfully, she was able to find that money and able to travel with the family here.
Now then, this is serious time for Canadians and for the medals. We have Lizzie Arnold of Great Britain leading. 4 to go, 3 of whom are from Canada. So Melissa Hollingsworth with a Ryan Davenport-built sled. Cousin Ryan here, and Melissa.
Last year's winner of this race is presently in 4th position, trying to move up the standings and overtake some of her teammates. But you know for a fact, Melissa is a great competitor. She'll be happy wherever she finishes because she has had a competitive first round. She's a little bit late to 2. See if she can navigate it. Well, it's all going to fall off the end of the brush. She's not going to be happy with that. She knows she wanted a better exit at corner 2 than that. 300 behind. Pieces it back together there for a nice ride through 4 and 5.
Well, Lizzie started 14 minutes quicker, so Mel's going to take a few more meters to get that advantage back.
We're starting to see some of the snow falling off of the canopies that they've got over the track here. Let's hope none of it falls in the track and affects any of these athletes' lines.
Well, that'll be like a parachute. You run into a flock of wet snow, the thing will just stand on its nose.
600s. This is going to be tight. 123.5. She's got the speed. If she can maintain a good exit through 15 here, nice into 16. She will have it. 135.5, and I suspect she'll get her by the finish line with only 300s to go. Oh, she drops back. Lizzie must have had a fantastic 14-15 combination because Mel had the speed, she had the heading, and then all of a sudden she drops back through 16.
She'll kill me tomorrow when she's in the booth for saying Canada. Isn't that where Canadians come from?
We come from a few places. Canada, sure, why not?
Well, a smile as ever from Melissa Hollingsworth, who will join us for the men's skeleton race, which is last on the program. It looked like she had the pace, she had top speed.
She did. She had a good exit of 15 here, nice into 16, but Lizzie must have pulled away at this portion, maybe doing a little bit less, maybe having a broader spined runner so that wasn't digging in. When you come into corner 16 under that tremendous pressure, your spine digs into the ice. If Lizzie had a broader one, she might have been able to maintain that speed.
So many.
She didn't hit coming out of corner 16. This wouldn't have been, that small skid you saw there would not have been enough to affect her time at the bottom, but she didn't hit coming out, which tells me that she must have done a lot of work in corner 16, or that spine runner was digging in, and maybe Lizzie had a broader spine, which allowed her to maintain a little bit more speed at the bottom here.
Sarah Reid of Canada won the season opener this year in Lake Placid. Let's see if she can finish in the medals, 3rd after heat 1 of 2.
She ran it deep. Oh, get off that wall! No! What a devastating entrance to corner 1. Hitting the bottleneck, she's late into 2. You can see that she's a bit rattled, going late into 3 here. This is not going to be what Sarah was hoping for her final run. She's still got 700s up on her, but I suspect she's going to be losing a little bit of momentum. She's done a fantastic job of piecing it back together in spite of not having the type of start that she wanted for the second run.
She had a quarter of a second.
Wow, that is amazing. Good for Sarah. Really able to piece it back together. And that's the mental fortitude that some of these athletes have to display when they have something that doesn't go their way. She's still got 1/100th of a second in the bank, and she's bringing it back. That's the kind of speed she's got.
5 for 2 of determination.
136.2.
Wow.
She is going to pull away, and she's going to get Lizzie Cassie here at the bottom. I think she's going to be surprised.
She is in the medals, 55-64 slides. Sarah Reid of Canada, our World Cup season opener winner in Lake Placid, will medal again here.
Nice work, Sarah Reid. That was fantastic sliding after a horrible start. She hit the entrance of corner one. Must have just nicked it, but she did get it back together the way that she wanted.
One career podium in World Cup sliding, and that was in Lake Placid when she won the race. This is going to be her second now. Already stitching together a great season, but ooh.
Look at this. She comes hard right out of the groove, and she's working desperately trying to avoid this bottleneck. You can see it right there. It's a drastic maneuver to try and avoid that. And it looks like she just barely nicks it, which is good for her because it didn't brush a whole lot of her energy and speed, but it did give her a bit of an unideal entrance into corner one, but she was able to put it back together, forget about that mistake, and move on to stitch together the bottom portion of this track.
Well, now then, what about this young lady, Cassie Haresh? This is her third ever career World Cup race. Sarah Reid leads for Canada.
Another Olympic qualifier for her. Let's see if Cassie can get her first of the season.
Wow.
Well, she got one last weekend, in Park City.
Let's see if she can claim her first ever World Cup medal. 11th in Placid, 4th last weekend. Fractions off the podium. Can she stay in there?
Looks like sliding with quite a bit of rock here. Ooh, late to two. She's going to spike. Let's see if she can steer the corner properly. Very nice.
Currently sitting in first and third place, 5:03.
800ths of a second in the bank. You can see that Sarah would have been slower through that portion of the track. So if she can keep this energy, she's got an opportunity to leapfrog, or stay in front of her teammate Sarah Reid here on the second descent.
There's just 200ths of a second between them after the first heat. She's got another 2/10, but
massive spike through 9. She didn't have the entrance that she wanted there. She's got 2/10 in the bank, and if she can keep it, whoa, she's got 2400ths of a lead. Really letting it go. She is not having a pretty run, but she's having a quick run.
This is one of those ones where she looks more like a bull rider than a skeleton slider. How close is it going to be at the line?
No.
10 behind, and that puts her in third place, potentially out of the medals. But, wow. Wild ride for Cassie Haresh.
She had all the time she needed in the bank until she got to 13-14, and then the wheels fell off the bus. She had some sloppy lines through the bottom of the track. She had a 10th at the entrance of corner 16 and lost 2/10 to Sarah Reid by the finish line, which is only about 400 meters.
4th last weekend, guaranteed at least 4th here, but
she goes into the pit here. You can see her dip down and spike. The energy is tremendous. She's going to go to the roof, and that does nothing for maintaining speed and trajectory. That is a bit of a scary line, and you know that it's not the ideal line to the gateway to the speed at the bottom of the track.
And there is Cassie and Noelle Piker's pace. Now our final slider, leader after the first heat, Marion Thies. Marion lying second in the World Cup rankings, bronze medal in Lake Placid, 5th in Park City, Utah. Is this going to be her first win of the season? Sarah Reid leads for Canada, Lizzie Yarnold second for Great Britain.
Marion's got her work cut out for her if she wants to stay in front of Sarah Reid, who's presently in the silver medal spot.
600s ahead of the Canadian after heat 1. A little bit of snow on the run down to corner 1.
Not going to help her, who's historically 5:20, already 1400ths back, but a better start to the entrance of corner 1 than Sarah Reid had, who's presently the girl that she's trying to keep in front.
Corner 3, let's have a look.
Still 1400ths, which means that she can now start to pick away at that deficit. Good entrance to corner 5 here. Nice and early into 4. Beautiful into corner 7 here. Doing very little to keep that low flat line. Enough height to cross early into 9, and she's got the 400ths lead that she needs. And if she can keep it together, you'll see Marion Thies as your race winner here at the bottom of the track. 1400, starting to grow that lead. 123 for speed. She is definitely pulling away. And you'll see probably in the neighborhood of 137 here. 136.6 at the bottom of the track. And here is your race winner, Marion Thies of Germany.
Well, it's a silver medal for Sarah Reid of Canada and a gold medal for Marion Thies of Germany. Lizzie Yarnold comes from 6th to take bronze here in Whistler, and it's the first win of the season. One of the things, 2 things you don't expect to see from Marion Thies: a really quick start and a mistake. She rarely makes a mistake when she's sliding.
And coming back from a 5:20 start to compete with an athlete who's doing in the 4:90s is phenomenal, especially on a short track here like in Whistler. And you'll see Frank Rommel do the same tomorrow. He's going to have the top speeds. These German athletes who can pilot these German sleds that they've got have mind-blowingly speeds, especially at the bottom of these tracks. And you do see 3 Canadians in the top 6 here, all of them earning an Olympic qualifier, something that the men are going to be hard-pressed to keep up with tomorrow on the Canadian side of things.
Well, Marion Thies is a real gold miner. She has a way of digging these speeds out at the bottom. Melissa Hollingsworth finishes in 5th position, Cassie Horesh in 4th. There's Ivo Ferriani in his cowboy hat, the president of the FIBT and IBSF. Still have to go through the weighing regimen. Sled, please. Yep. Get it back off the truck and get it back onto the weighing scales. Otherwise, if you don't get weighed, you don't get to finish.
They don't always weigh them after the second run. Typically, they always weigh them after the first run. And occasionally, they'll throw them back on the scale here to make sure that they've maintained what their legal limits are for the second run.
Marion Thies starting as the second heat leader, and with one job, that was not to make a mistake, because with the quick girls who were behind her in the first heat, that would have spelt disaster.
If she can do this here in Whistler this week, she's going to be somebody to really contend with when we go to St. Moritz for World Championships here in late January, because it is so much longer. It's almost a 2-kilometer track at 1,800 and some odd meters in St. Moritz. She is going to be the race favorite there, along with, I believe, Noelle Picus Pace and some of the other fantastic drivers like the Melissa Hollingsworth. And so obviously Sarah Reid, with the season that she's showing, is definitely going to be a threat come St. Moritz for World Championships this year.
Lizzie Arnold, bronze medal. Sarah Reid, silver. Marion Thies, the gold. Arnold won the snow-affected race in St. Moritz last season, her first World Cup win. Cassie Horesh 4th, Melissa Hollingsworth in 5th position ahead of Noelle Picus Pace. And that is the remainder of your top 20 finishers. We'll catch up with our leaders right after this. Stay with us.
Gary, Tim, we need mic flashes. Go down to the truck, get mic flashes. Stick one, talk to stick one. Stick one, talk to stick one. Athletes, please. Athletes. Yes, yes, with the flowers. Ladies, with the flowers over here. Not to him, it's not.
Welcome back to Whistler in British Columbia. We have just seen Marion Thies of Germany claim the first win of her World Cup season. So we are now 3 races in. We've had 3 different winners. Sarah Reid of Canada, who won in Lake Placid, takes the silver medal. And Lizzie Arnold of Great Britain, who was in the silver medal position last week, repeats. She gets on the podium again. She has the bronze medal here in Whistler. My name's Martin Haven. Sitting alongside me is the Olympic champion John Montgomery. And John. Marion with that victory, just creeping ahead of Katie Uhlaender to take the World Cup leader's vest.
She will be wearing the yellow bib going into, I guess the next race is going to be in Europe, back there in Winterberg, Germany. One of the tracks that lends itself to a real glider. Not necessarily Marion Thies's type of track, but she will be wearing the yellow bib and trying to defend it on a home country track.
Confirmation there of the race results. Let's get down to our finish dock. John Morgan is trying to nail Jello to the ceiling, otherwise known as arranging the athletes. Here he is.
Here's our flower ceremony. Heinz Thoma, the head of the FIBT skeleton, will give away to the first place finisher. Second place and third also get flowers. And over to Arnold. And now, thank you. What a great week you've had. It was a tough week, but a great result. You have to be relieved to get out of here with a bronze medal.
Absolutely. I'd had quite a tough training week, suffering a really bad blackout on the second day, so I only had half the amount of training runs. So to come here and get on the podium again, I am over the moon. I'm just so overwhelmed. So.
Well, we didn't want to bring that up on the broadcast. We didn't want to make your parents nervous. But congratulations on the medal. Okay, over to Sarah. Boy, you had some big eyes on the entrance to Curve 1. Boy, you came off that wall just enough.
Yeah, that was not what I was expecting going out of the groove. But I actually had a conversation with my coach before the race today, talking about when things go wrong to relax and just kind of get recomposed rather than panic. So that went through my mind, and I think I saved it.
Well, congratulations. That was a great run. And Marion, normal, and you're in Whistler, long, fast track. Is this track one of your favorites?
Yeah, that is. It is my favorite track, and it's not normal that I can win here, but I knew if I have a good sliding, I could win, and today I've won, and that's great.
Congratulations, ladies.
Congratulations indeed, Marion Thies, Sarah Reid and Lizzie Arnold. You're 1, 2, 3 here, and Marion will take over the yellow vest of the World Cup points leaders, and not one of them over 5'6". Yeah, the diminutive athletes, the tall athletes, there's just nothing to separate them, really.
You've got athletes at both ends of the spectrum here. Lizzie being one of the bigger, heavier athletes, and Sarah being one of the more pint-sized ladies on tour here. That it is anybody's game in the sport of skeleton racing, because enough has been done to level the playing field so that all can be competitive, with adding extra ballast to your sled and also being able to compromise for any deficiencies that you've got there.
I'm going to get killed by Lizzie. She claims to be 5'8". Okay, there you go. 5'8", 5'6", and 5'2". That was your top three. Cassie Haresh, Melissa Hollingsworth and Noelle Piker's Pace rounding out the top half dozen. The weather has been very good to us. Let's hope that the men's race is similar tomorrow afternoon. We will see the Olympic champion John Montgomery back on the ice here, a track in which he has never lost an international race. No pressure.
Oh yeah, done what? Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
We'll see you for more action.